Believe I am unmuted. It's telling me that up top here, so that's good. Like Dana said, my name is Jason Wettig. I work out of the Columbia, Maryland office, and I'm one of their EPDM applications engineers. So I kind of do a lot with this tool. We do a lot of implementations, a lot of customer support, customer services stuff. If I say anything that it's extremely crazy, it's probably because I've been aiding with our support team over the last 7 days. Apparently, during the summertime, people take vacation. Not sure if that happens to you guys or not, but it happens to us quite a bit. So we were a little shorthanded, and I was helping out. So if I say anything crazy or that doesn't seem right, make note of it. Let me know, and that's probably why. But what we're going to be covering today is SolidWorks Enterprise PDM, just a basic overview on what the tool is, how it works, and basically maybe show you some areas inside of your organization where it might make a little bit of sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into the software here. Now to get to SolidWorks Enterprise PDM, it's really not all that challenging. All I'm going to do is go over here, click on a folder structure, and go to SolidWorks Enterprise PDM. I have to log in, type in my information. SolidWorks EPDM works inside of Windows Explorer, so there's nothing new that you really have to learn. If you know how to get to My Documents, you can really navigate and work inside of the vault. Now, to give you an idea of what the vault looks like, let me log in with my designer credentials here. And in a second, we should be able to see our Quick Start Vault here. So we have folder structures laid out very similar to how we would inside of My Documents. A couple of things have been added to the software, kind of like a little overlay. We have a couple of tabs down here that we typically don't see. Toolbar up top here that's kind of new. And we'll see another toolbar that'll pop up above when I access certain file types inside the vault. Now the idea behind Enterprise PDM is it helps you to do document control. An organization you're probably working on an assembly or SolidWorks part, you don't want multiple people making changes to that without tracking it. And if you track it, you want to be able to track it reliably. You don't want to have it written down on a piece of paper, and then some people send it in an email, and other people just shout over the cube wall, hey, I made changes to this document. You don't want that. You want to be able to track it, be able to see the changes as they move through the design process. You also only want one person editing in a file at a time. You don't want multiple people opening up a file, making subsequent changes to it, and then saving it and saying it's the latest version. So with Enterprise PDM, it's going to give you that control over your documents that you might not currently have at this moment in time. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the documents inside the vault. I have some projects that have been laid out up top here. Go ahead to the detail list here. Projects have a serial number that's been applied to them. I have a couple other folders, one for PDF, one for ECOs, engineering change orders, and one is libraries that holds things like templates and logos and things of that nature that pertain to my organization. They could be a SolidWorks template, a bill of materials template, it could be a lot of different things. If I go into this first project, 2010, and I take a look at design data, I have some SolidWorks files inside of here. I also have a video inside of here as well. If I take a look at this SolidWorks assembly, and I click on the preview tab down here, you can see that I can very easily see what this thing looks like without ever having to open it up inside SolidWorks. To me, that's pretty powerful. I can't tell you the number of times I've looked through documents that are on my computer, and I just keep clicking through random ones and opening them all up in order to see what they are. Because I can't remember what they are, they have some obscure name. So that one's pretty handy. Notice how it's even displaying the nice little bill of materials up top here for the assembly. That was a SolidWorks 2014 enhancement, the ability to add bombs to your SolidWorks assemblies. We can also take a look at drawings as well. So without ever having to open up a drawing, we can take a look at it. Other files we might be able to take a look at, Hinge Study. So it looks like we did a simulation study of this hinge. Without ever having to open up this Microsoft Office file, I'm able to very clearly see the results and see whether this particular hinge has failed or surpassed our design criteria. So you're able to use that preview tab very, very, very fluently inside of your design process. One thing that I really like, though, is something called a data card. To me, these things are very, very, very powerful. When I was a designer out in the field, having to fill out custom properties inside of my SolidWorks files, which if you're a designer and you have to do that, you know it's painful. It's not fun. What the data card does is think of this as a link between this SolidWorks file and its custom properties and what's written on this card itself. So let me just open up this file, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm not going to check out the file, I'm just going to open it up. And if I take a look here at the custom or file properties, you can see we have material, weight, revision number, who created it, the project name, the date that it was created. All these things are being filled out from this data card. They all correspond. So when I build a file and I put it into the vault, I fill out this data card, it's going to fill out those custom properties for me automatically. Really powerful stuff. Notice how I can also view different configurations. So if my different configurations had different properties, part numbers, I'd be able to see and utilize them here. So that's some pretty cool stuff. Go ahead and close that out. Let's take a look at the top here, because we not only see the name of the file, which we would always see inside of Windows Explorer, but I also get a chance to see who it's checked out by. Checkout is a way that we can say, listen, I want to make changes to this, so I'm going to check it out. That way only I can make changes to it. Anybody else can view it and open it up, but they cannot make changes to it. They cannot check it back into the vault. So once I'm done with my changes and I check it back in, everybody inside the vault's able to see it. It tells me the file type, the workflow state. We'll come back to workflows here in a minute. When it was modified, the description of the file. The description corresponds to the custom property description. The revision, which corresponds to the custom property revision. The number that Enterprise PDM automatically gives a file that has the file extension of a drawing, part, or assembly. If it's FDA compliant, the project that is part of, and if there was a vendor that's associated with it. So pretty neat stuff, all coming over here. What these little columns are basically links to SQL database tables, which is the backbone of which Enterprise PDM lives on. All this information, all these informations, they all live inside of SQL. Don't worry, you don't have to touch SQL. The interface between Enterprise PDM and SQL allows that to flow seamlessly without any control from you. Now I mentioned workflow. Workflow is basically our internal process. We're going to say files start off in work in progress. Once a file is completed enough that we think it can be manufactured, we then send it to another workflow state that's called pending approval. After pending approval, we send it to a final workflow state that says released, where it gets a revision letter. So that's the first time it gets a revision stamp. Every single time a file is checked out, changes are made to it, it's saved, and then checked back into the vault, a version is made. You could have 5,000 versions, but only 2 or 3 revisions of the file. So the versioning tab allows us to see that data. The bill of materials allows us to see the bill of materials inside of the SolidWorks file. Without ever having to open it up, I can see what's part of this file and what's being used in this particular revision of the file. I can change it to show different configurations of the file, different versions of the file, different revisions of the file as built. So you can really control what you're seeing here. You can even compare versions of the file to one another. I can compare a BOM from revision A to a BOM from revision D to see what has changed. Pretty powerful stuff. The Contains tab is very similar to the bill of materials. It shows you everything that's in the file, whether it's being used for that particular revision or not. So suppressed files, hidden files. So inside of this assembly, all of these particular other assemblies and drawings are being used. They're being referenced. And the where used shows me where this particular assembly is being used elsewhere. It gives me a clear idea of if I want to make changes to this assembly, what other files could I potentially impact. Nothing's more frustrating as a designer or an engineer than opening up a file that yesterday was fine, but one of your coworkers decided to make a change to it late last night, and now your entire assembly is broken because of them. This can help to mitigate that. So it's a really, really nice tool. I wish that this tab were available in every software when any sort of collaborative work environment is being pursued. One thing I want to mention is about the contains and where used tabs. The reason why SolidWorks Enterprise PDM knows where these files are is because now SQL is managing the file extensions and their relationships to one another. So an assembly consists of parts. Those parts have drawings, which is why we're able to see them inside of here, because Enterprise PDM manages the relationship between all the files. All right, that's enough about these tabs down here. Let's go ahead and talk about how we would physically use the tool. So I went back to the root directory of my vault, and I'm going to right-click anywhere, and I'm going to go ahead and hit New, and I'm going to build a new project. What's pretty neat about this is it's going to build a folder structure where the top-level folder will be called Project, and then followed by a serial number that Enterprise PDM defines. You can control it, but you just set it up on the forefront. And then it's going to build subfolders inside of there. When I build a new project, I need to fill out a little bit of information. You can control this. This is something that is customizable to what you're making. You don't have to make it for just control boxes or filling machines, but for the purpose of our demo, we're making a control box. We're going to do a 12-volt DC control box. And who's the customer name? Well, we're just going to do boxes are us. I couldn't do it backwards R. I'm very sorry about that. But again, this is something that is completely customizable. You can have it say or do basically whatever you want. You can have it pull from a customer list that you already have. You can have it so that way the people have to put in their username and the date that it was created. So this is a pretty basic one. But what this is going to do is it's going to go through and build a brand new folder for us called Project 2015. I knew that because it comes after Project 2014. And then inside of there, it's going to build another folder structure for me. So now I don't have to worry about my engineers typing in the wrong project number. I also don't have to worry about them misspelling design data or documentation because, let's face it, if you're an engineer, you're probably not that great of a speller. I'm just speaking for myself in this case. And it even populated a Microsoft Word document in there. So that's really handy stuff for me. And it's not just going to do this once. If I go back to the root directory of the vault and I build a new project, it's going to do the same thing again. Now what I want to do is inside of the documentation, I want to place some files. Place that there. I'm going to take all of these files from this Documents to Add to Vault folder and drag and drop them into my vault. That's how easy it is to add files to here. You can copy and paste, drag and drop, cut and paste, or even save directly into it because it is Windows Explorer. The same exact functionality that you have inside of my documents and my pictures, you have available here. Now I brought them into the vault, but they're not physically in the vault yet because they're still checked out by me. So I need to check them into the vault. Simple right click, check in, or I can hit the check in button up top here. We'll add them to the vault for the very first time. One thing that's pretty handy is inside of here, if files are not found, you get warning messages. This drawing requires these two parts. However, one of them has not been found. That's something to know. That's important. That could really affect a project that you're working on. Also notice how it's picking up the references. This drawing requires these two parts. You can see that by the little arrow here and then how they're kind of jogged over. Another one here, this push button requires this push button switch, but again, that's a toolbox component. This weldment has these weldment cut list items that are part of it. this Microsoft Office file, an Excel file, is used inside of this Word document. So it's even picking up relationships between files that are not SolidWorks files and eDrawing files as well. That's really important because now we have Enterprise managing these and not our users, not Windows. So again, it's a much more robust system. You won't get the message when you open up a SolidWorks assembly, can't find this part. If it's been added to the vault and that file is in the vault, you're never going to get that message again. So now I added all these files to the vault. We want to go ahead and populate our design data section of our file, our vault. My company builds control boxes. We build a lot of control boxes. Chances are we already have a control box that's pretty close to what I want, but I need to tweak it. This is a situation a lot of our clients are faced with. Do I redesign this from scratch? Do I open up that assembly and do a pack and go? Do I open up that assembly and save it as a copy? Well, first we need to find that assembly. So let me go ahead and use some of the search functionality inside the Enterprise PDM tool. We won't be going up here anymore. Nope, we don't use Windows Search. No longer will you be burdened with never finding documents inside of Windows Search. You're going to go over here to the nice little search icon, and then I'm going to use the Quick Search tool. I'm going to tell it to look in my vault. I'm then going to tell it to look for a SolidWorks assembly, and the file name should contain control. Now I searched this earlier. I searched this many times, that's why it's there. And when I run the search, it's going to find any SolidWorks assembly files inside of my vault that use the name control. Assuming that it doesn't go ahead and crash here on me. Looks like it is in the process of not working out very well for me here. It's probably because I'm doing a webinar and a bunch of other stuff on my computer. But it appears as though it's locked up pretty good here. Well, you guys get to look at my desktop, which is nice. Let me log back into the vault here. Let's go back and do that search one more time. Well, let's just see if we can get it to come up with control. Alright, so we did come back with some results there. Not sure what that last one was about, but we'll move on. So we're able to find a bunch of files that contain control. Maybe I want to find SolidWorks drawings that contain control. Go ahead and run for that. And it's going to come back with a list of SolidWorks drawings that contain the control field. Apparently it does not like it when I am on a webinar and doing search commands. So it seems as though it is doing the same thing it did before, where it doesn't want to work out all that well. So let me go back in, and we won't do any more searching for that file. We're just going to go into where I know that they're located at in the design data. And I'm going to go ahead and look for a drawing file that in its description says it is the control box assembly. And I can confirm that by looking at the preview tab to make sure that that is in fact the control box I am looking for. Now, what I can do without even opening up this document is I can use a really neat tool called Copy Tree, which allows me to copy the entire Contains tab into a new location. So with the Copy Tree, you have the option to copy a file to a new location or leave it as its reference location. So maybe it's a library part, a part that you use in every single assembly that you've ever created since the beginning of your company's foundation. You just don't check it here. It stays in its location. The new assembly will reference that previous file in its location. You won't have 10,000 copies of a bolt. That's pretty handy. I can tell it to name drawings after the models. And then I can even go through here. Let me just grab all the files real quick. We'll just copy them all over. I can even go through here and rename the files with the serial number for assembly number, drawing number, and maybe even part number. Important step you want to do is browse to that new location in your vault, and I want to copy them into the 2015 file design data folder. So let me go ahead and copy those files. I'm going to automatically check them in on copy, and I'm going to have the comment on the check-in say copy Trius, check these files in for me. So it'll take a couple of minutes here to copy those over, especially because I'm doing a webinar. It might take a little bit longer, which it appears as though it is. So there is some sort of adverse effect on my machine when I am broadcasting my screen over the interwebs. But in the meantime, it gives me a chance to talk about a little bit more about the copy tree tool. You can also include simulation results. If you selected preserve relative paths, that would mean preserve folder structure from the files that you were copying. So maybe this drawing was inside of a folder, and then this Word document was inside of another folder. It would rebuild those folders at the new location where I'm copying them to. So again, it just helps to streamline a lot of processes that you would probably be doing, but makes it a lot easier in the end. So we're almost at the end there. And then we'll go through and we'll take a look at all the new files that I've copied over for me. So once this decides to move off my screen here, there we go. We're going to go back to our root directory, into that new folder that I created, and you can see all my nice new files have been created here. Now, the names might not make any sense. Well, they kind of do. That was a SolidWorks drawing, so it's being called draw-some serialized number. This is something that we manually set up inside of the admin tool. This isn't out of the box. You can make this pretty much whatever you want. But we said, because this is a SolidWorks drawing file with a certain file extension, when we copy it, rename the file to what this particular number would be. We can see, we take a look at the data card. The number should be populated in there, but apparently didn't want to on this. So what I want to do is I'm going to go through and look for an assembly, the control box assembly. I'm going to go ahead and open that up inside of SolidWorks, check it out, so I can make some changes to it. Now, this particular assembly needs a stop button on it. We don't want somebody getting their hand caught in a piece of machinery that this thing is controlling and their hand getting ripped off or something worse even happening. So we really need to make sure that we have that button on here. So let's go up and search. I'm going to go through and search my vault. For something that says stop on it. And you can see we have an emergency stop button right here. Well, I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop that directly on to this face. And when I do so, I am prompted to select a specific configuration of this file. Well, let's go ahead and select the long one. And the next thing is a mate reference that we've built into this file, so that way when I drag and drop it into any assembly, I can mate it very easily, very quickly. That's pretty handy. So it's now mated to that face. I can't really pull it away. I can make it look like it's pulled away, but I can't really pull it away. Now, you might notice that there is no hole for this particular thing on that face. Rather than me trying to cut one, I'm going to use something called a smart feature. This isn't anything EPDM does. This is something that SolidWorks always has done. You build it into your files. They automatically create cutouts if you've built those cuts into that assembly file. So any new assembly you bring it into, you can still perform that cut feature. So let me go ahead and insert that smart feature. It's just letting me know that the file I'm about to edit is not checked out. We're going to hit OK. And you can see that it created a cutout on that new file, and it's going to follow that particular part wherever I place it. So that's really handy. You now never have to worry about your holes that physically lining up with your components if you do it that way. As a designer, I think that I've done a pretty good job here. So let me go ahead, grab all these files, and check them back in. Go ahead and close out of that. And let's take a look at that particular assembly file in our preview tab of our EPDM bolt. I should have rebuilt it before I brought it out of here, because the stop button is not appearing on the bottom there. Go ahead and open that back up again. Strange. The stop button did not make it back. I don't think I saved it before I brought it back in there again. So let me bring back up that search tool really quickly. We can add it back in. We'll just drag and drop it on there. Just bear with me 1 second. We're not going to do the cutout this time. We're just going to drag and drop it on place here. Save all the files. Then we're going to go ahead and check them back in. This way now, when I go back to this assembly and I take a look at it, we can very clearly see the stop button has been added before. So that save step that I neglected was pretty important. Now that this particular file is ready to go, I need to have it manufactured. So I'm going to do that by right-clicking on this file, and I'm going to go through and say Change State. I'm going to submit it for approval. I'm an engineer. I must submit it to my manager for approval. So I'd like my manager to receive a notification. The comment is stop button added. A second time, since I forgot to do it the first time. And the notification comment is going to be look at my awesome stop button. And now all these files are going to go from a work in progress state to a pending approval state. I can't approve the files because I'm an engineer. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to log in as my manager. In real life, you would have your manager log in, but because I don't have two people sitting here in my office doing this, I'm going to go ahead and log out of Enterprise PDM. Notice how when I log off, it's going to automatically kick me out of the vault view, which is pretty handy. Go back in to my vault. Log in as manager with a super secret password of lowercase m, and you can see that, wow, it looks like I have a couple of files. A notification popped up letting me know something has changed, and it looks like a couple of files have moved from work in progress to pending approval by my designer. If I scroll down, looks like he added the stop button for the second time. I'll have to ask him what that means. And then look at my awesome stop button. Very serious fellow here. All right, we're going to log into the vault here real quick. There we go. Third time's a charm on that one, and it brings me right to the files that are pending my approval, so I can very easily go through and take a look at them with the preview tab without having to open them up and see that that stop button has in fact been added. I'm happy with that. I think that he did a good job. adding that stop button in. So let me go ahead, right-click on the file, and approve these. Before I do that, though, I want to show you the data card and show you the revision of the file. There is nothing there. Revision is blank. So when I right-click on this file and I approve it, files look good. Notification to my engineer. It's going to be good job. I have to put in my password one more time. It's a double challenge here. We don't want people, logging on as the manager, or if I stepped away from my computer and I forgot to lock it, getting on here and approving their own things. They have to know my password. They go from pending approval to released, and we'll see here that the revision will physically change to revision letter A. At this point in time, this file can be manufactured. All files associated with it have the go-ahead from our engineering department that they're good, and they're going to be manufactured and created. Wait for it to move all those files. Boom. Revision A has been applied here. If we determine that a change needs to be made to this because the client came back to us and said, wait up, I never asked for that, but we know they clearly did, we can go right to change state, and we can do approve or change according to an engineering change order that we would create. Now, just for simplistic sake, I'm not going to go through all of that stuff. You might see SolidWorks opening up in the upper left-hand side of my screen. In fact, now it's opening up on my entire screen. What's happening? Well, inside of Enterprise PDM, I have an automatic task that is being run. This task is to save all the drawing files as PDF files upon releasing the document. When any SolidWorks file gets to a released state in my workflow, an automatic task will open up SolidWorks behind the scenes and run this particular save convert. Notice how I can click right back here. You have no idea that anything is physically happening behind the scenes. But what it's really doing is populating my PDF folder here with all of the assembly drawings for my design. I think we might have even seen this one pop up. So that's an automatic built-in convert task. If you make PDFs of your drawings, this can help automate that. And it looks like we have a fourth person who joined us somewhere during that whole thing, so that's awesome. I didn't lose anyone during that entire time, or Philip just logged in twice. But either way, that's all I really had for you on this overview of Enterprise PDM. So if you guys have any questions, type them in the questions here, and we'll get to you. I think Dana will probably read those off to me. So thank you guys for taking time out of your day to sit down with us and go over a little bit about SolidWorks Enterprise PDM.
All right, thanks, Jason. Okay, are there any questions out there? We'll wait here a couple minutes and see if any come through. I just want to remind you all, too, that this webinar, as well as all of our other webinars, are recorded, and you can access them through our website at trimec.com. Upper right-hand corner, you will find our YouTube channel link, and just click there, and you can find this webinar as well as all of our others. All right, well, it doesn't look like there are any questions at this time, so I would just like to thank you for joining us this afternoon, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.